1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey guys, Scott Poley here. I'm a session guitarist, pedal steel player. I also produce and write music. And today we're going to talk all about bass guitar with my good friend Jesse Eigen.
Hello.
Jesse, thanks so much for coming and joining us. Jesse and I have known each other quite a long time. We've played on a whole bunch of records together, and we've done kind of session work for Ray Quinn, doing kind of big band stuff together and pop stuff, and done a bunch of gigs together as well. So Jesse's about as good as it gets, really, to tell you a little bit about the bass. And if you play bass, Jesse's going to show you a few techniques and things like that. But also, if you're a music producer, then you might learn a little bit about general styles and tones and that kind of thing. That is also going to be we're going to do a rundown of Jesse's rig that he's using, and that's going to be in another video. We'll link that in the description in the top right-hand corner as well. So Jesse, thanks so much for joining us, my man. It's great to have you.
Happy to be here.
And also great to see you, because it's been far too long.
It really has, yeah.
I'd certainly love to hear a little bit more about who you play for, what kind of, a little bit about your history and stuff like that.
Yeah, sure. So I'm from Israel originally. That's where I grew up. And I picked up the bass about age 13 after playing guitar for a while. I went on to study music in Tel Aviv, and then the place where I was studying there had an exchange program with LIPA, which is the Liverpool Institute of Performing Arts. I did some session stuff in Israel before I moved over, some pop gigs, touring, doing some remote session stuff, doing some studio session stuff with likes of yourself. It's been a pretty wild ride so far.
It's great. And we're here to talk about kind of the role of the bass player, Jesse, and I'm kind of quite keen to hear your thoughts on this. What is the kind of the key elements of being a great bass player?
So I think the role of the bass in the music is to kind of bridge the gap between the rhythm of the music and the harmony, which is obviously the chords and everything else that's going on top. And it can really dictate the feel of the song, both within the rhythm and the harmony. So depending on which rhythmic pattern you're using, if you're sitting right on the kick drum, or if you're kind of bouncing around it, giving it some spice. So that can dictate the rhythm of the song. It can, if we've got a kick drum that's doing straight beats, then the way you play can dictate whether it can be rock or Latin or...
I mean, maybe a good way to illustrate this is if I maybe just play like a really simple... Let's pick a key.
Let's be in G.
G, why not? Okay, so I'll just play a really simple groove in G. I'll just go... Maybe if you could illustrate a few kind of how you could change up the feel, and maybe, feel free to reference whatever you want to from that. So if I'll just get going on that and...
Yeah, so if it was like a rock track, for example, I might just go... Or if it was Latin, I could go... Or if it was like fast country shuffle... Exactly, yeah. So yeah, I think that's where the bass really kind of ties things together in terms of bridging the gap, like I said, between the rhythm and the harmony.
Absolutely. And with a bass, you've got a couple of proprietary playing styles that we should really kind of look at.
Yeah, so I think the most commonly used technique will be what they call finger style, which is kind of that, basically. So plucking with the cushion of your finger. And within the finger style, my personal technique is using the thumb to mute the string that's on top of the string that I'm playing, So I don't know if the guys can see, but as I'm moving down the strings, my thumb is actually muting the string, so that when I'm plucking, if I just left my thumb like that, the strings sometimes ring out. So I'm using my thumb to mute the string I'm not playing. So it's all really, really clean. But yeah, that's the kind of standard technique that most people you'll see them use.
I think in pedal steel, well, that I play, like we would call that pick blocking, because it's the same kind of technique. Right. One of my other favourite bass players that you will have seen on my channel, Etienne Gerard, plays a lot.
Lovely player.
Yeah, plays thumb style as well, but not slapping, and it's something while I try and attempt to play bass, I seem to be able to do better. Can you maybe illustrate a little bit about that, Jesse, and tell us a little bit about how that differs in tone?
Sure. So that technique relies on basically you're kind of palm muting your palm there, and you're using your thumb as the play. And you can tell it's a slightly more muted tone. A bit. People like Pino Palladino use that a lot. It's used a lot in R&B, or you're in sections where you break down a song and you want it to feel a bit more low key. So also you'll notice that in this bass specifically, I've got like a little foam piece here that's helping me mute the strings when I'm doing finger style like that. But if you haven't got that, then this is a really handy technique with the thumb.
Slap bass is a big deal, and lots of different players do it slightly differently.
The party trick.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about that style?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is a P bass with flat round strings, so wouldn't normally be the first choice for slap bass. But slap bass, for people who don't know, is basically a technique where you use your thumb to slap down like that, and you use your index finger to pop. And
I think later, if we're clever, what I'll do now is put in a clip of you slapping on a bass with rounds.
Yes.
Right now.
This is the jazz bass.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about that slap technique, Jesse. So you're using your thumb to literally slap the string. So you're using, about kind of here on the...
Yeah, so like the side of the thumb, I use that to slap down on my lower strings, my root notes on my lower strings. And then I use this finger here to pop.
And to do that, you're literally going under the string.
Going under the string, popping it up like that, and then I'm actually lifting on the left hand to mute it so it doesn't ring out. So that gives it, if I was to leave it like that, it was to ring out. But if you want to use the rhythmic aspect of it, you're actually using your left hand.
Yeah.
So I'm lifting that.
That's so cool.
And then that gives you the option of using almost like a kick drum and a snare, like we said before.
Now let's talk about playing with a pick, because like a guitar player, bass players can use a pick.
Yeah.
And what bass players have popularised that style, Jesse, that you want to reference?
I'd say people like Bobby Vega, for example. He uses a pick, but he uses it a lot in like funk and R&B, and so not your typical. I mean, a lot of rock players will use a pick.
One of my favourites is Phil Lynott from Lizzie, of course. I just love the way he plays.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple, but it's so effective. But
100%.
Shows a little bit about that. So you're just using the pick exactly as you would.
Yeah, exactly as you would on a guitar. You can either straight down. Obviously, the attack is a lot more prominent.
Yeah.
Alternate picking. But then you've got people like Bobby Vega, for example, who've just taken it to funk and taken it to R&B and soul. So yeah. So again, you know, like using the pick to do the subdivisions of your rhythm as well can really give it that groove, all those muted notes.
Because you're basically being a hi-hat pattern in your right hand there. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Larry Graham, for example, says that he started slapping because he didn't have a drummer in the room. You know, so his thumb would be the kick drum. Boom.
Yeah.
And that's the snare is the pop.
Yeah.
I think a lot of great bass players do that and have found that kind of formula. You know, if you're talking about people like Nathan East, you know, other like really great session players that they get hired because they're solid and they're consistent, but also because they've got their own little bounce or the spice or the thing that they bring to the table that people want them for. It's really about that formula that they found where it's like, I'm in the pocket, but I'm just giving it the right amount of bounce, the right amount of spice. And every once in a while, go up here and be like, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. And there's a cool thing when you do as well. There's a bass player thing with, there's kind of a little thing that you guys do that us guitar players don't do well.
I actually know the official name for that, but I do that.
It's the bass player slidey thing.
Yeah,
show us a bit of that, Jesse.
That's the name, the bass player slidey thing. So I'll pop my octave pedal on because it always sounds nice. But if we go.
And all you're doing there is a simple slide kind of from, it's like a semitone like that.
It's like a little trill. Yeah, it tends to be, I think, a semitone up when I do it. And it just gives a little bit, you know, if I played it that way. Still nice, but... It just gives a little. I mean, we're limited bass players of what we can do. Yeah. That's what we found that will make it interesting. Have you checked out Tal Wilkenfeld, because she does that a lot in her solos, and she's super tasty.
Oh, she's incredible. Yeah, she plays for Jeff Beck and a lot of other people.
So I think she does that kind of thing really well. Sometimes I think people can overdo it. You know, it comes out in every bar, but I think if you pop it in the right places, then it can be really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to find out what the name for that is. Trill? Trem? I don't know.
Yeah.